Today we're talking break-in and first service on your brand new motorcycle. Let's say you're a new rider and you went out and splurged on a brand spanking new motorcycle. Congratulations, that's pretty sweet. So once you start riding your bike, do you just ping it off the limiter? Do you just ride it like you stole it? Or are you supposed to baby it and keep it under 3,000 RPMs everywhere? Well, I'm gonna tell you guys everything about breaking in a motorcycle and then completing the first service because I've recently broken in this GSX 8R. We've completed 600 miles on it and we're ready to do the first service. I'm gonna show you guys why it's not so scary. You can definitely do it yourself. Unless you have some crazy European motorcycle that requires visiting the dealership, you can probably do the first service at home. Let's start by talking about what it entails to break in your motorcycle, and let's go over all the service items we're going to do as part of the first service in today's video. Now, a quick shout out, this GSX 8R we're featuring in the video is a giveaway bike on yammynoob.co. Sign up as a member and support the show. It's a great way to show your support for what we do here so we can keep creating amazing daily motorcycle content. Not only will you get entered to win this machine, you'll also get access to our awesome Discord server, exclusive content, and our super spicy newsletter as well. If you sign up as a member, you're going to be locked in to win all of our future giveaway bikes as well. In July, we're launching our new, can't quite say it just yet, but we have a very spicy motorcycle coming in July, and make sure you sign up to win that motorcycle. Okay, let's talk about proper break-in procedure on your bike. All right, break-in procedures. Man, people love to overcomplicate this, but guys, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Ride the bike like you normally would ride it. Don't keep it in one RPM band for too long. Just make sure you're using the rev range. You can absolutely wind it full throttle every once in a while, but don't abuse it. All you have to do when you're breaking in a motorcycle engine is just simply ride the bike the normal way you would. Motorcycle manufacturers are often very conservative of how they ask you to break in the engine. That's because number one, they don't want you to go full yeet and kill yourself. And number two, they often do that to try to protect themselves from future warranty or liability claims as well. Most modern motorcycles, particularly entry or mid-level Japanese bikes, are going to be completely fine off the showroom floor, and you can absolutely ride them totally normally. Feel free to rev it out. Feel free to load the engine a little bit. Just use the rev range and use the bike as you would normally use it. You're not gonna hurt anything. Other components on the motorcycle do need to break in as well too. You should bed in your pads, make sure your tires are good. There's a lot of other stuff to consider, not just the engine. But overall, motorcycle quality control has gotten to the point where vast majority of these motorcycles leaving the dealership floors are perfectly good and in running order and probably won't have anything happen to them. That is, of course, unless you buy a KTM. Then you're probably gonna have an oil leak on your first day of ownership or something like that. All right, so now that you've broken in the bike, you've ridden it normally, let's go over all the maintenance items you're gonna have to do on your first service. And the first place you're gonna wanna visit is your owner's manual. So it genuinely blows my mind how many people never open up their owner's manual and look at this maintenance chart. If you're buying a brand new motorcycle, your owner's manual is going to come with so much good information. I highly recommend just take an evening and literally just read this thing front to back. You're going to learn so much about your motorcycle. So in our maintenance chart, we can see here that we have the mileage or the months. And so this is actually the first service right here. It's this column that's indicating the 600 miles that we're doing. And you'll see that there's really not that much that we need to actually look over. The biggest thing you need to do is an oil change. As you can see here, engine oil and engine oil filter has an R, which stands for replace, as we see at the bottom here. We also see that the exhaust pipe bolts and muffler bolts need a T, which is tighten. The good thing for us is that we have actually swapped an aftermarket full exhaust system on this, so we know it's fully tightened. We also see that Suzuki asks for the throttle valve synchronization to be inspected. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and say that that's perfectly fine. I have never seen a brand new motorcycle have a throttle valve synchronization issue, and if you did, you would certainly feel that from the throttle feel. So that I'm just gonna go ahead and skip. It's totally fine. The other thing we need to look at is the drive chain. We have an I on it, that means for inspect at 600 miles. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure the drive chain is clean and lubricated, which you should be doing every 600 miles anyways. So we're gonna clean and lubricate and make sure you have the proper amount of slack. For the brakes, it has an I right here. We're gonna check for free play at the lever, make sure we don't have any spongy feeling, no leaks, and everything's looking good. The steering also has an I. We're gonna make sure we have proper lock to lock on the steering at the front, no cables are getting jammed up, and we have good torque. The chassis bolts and nuts have a T, which say to tighten. Again, this is one of those things that if an engine bolt is coming loose, I think you would know pretty darn quickly. So we're gonna kind of visually inspect, make sure everything's up to torque, and take a look at that. We can see here on the next page, we actually have what Suzuki recommends for you to look at for each of those items as well. So for the steering, like I said, it should be smooth, no restriction of movement, and no play or looseness. For the brakes, we're gonna make sure we got proper pedal and lever operation. The fluid in the reservoir is good. There's no sponginess, there's no leaks, and the brake pads are not worn down because the motorcycle's brand new and it's 600 miles. The brake pads are definitely not worn down. And then of course the drive chain, the correct tension, lubricate, and that there's no excessive wear or damage. The other thing that you can look at in your owner's manual is actually seeing how to change the oil too. You guys can see on this page, it literally outlines how to change the engine oil on this particular model, showing you where the drain bolt is and showing you where the filter is going to be as well. Changing the oil is very simple. We're going to be doing it today. Should be no complications doing that, and I think almost any entry-level mechanic or beginner motorcycle rider can do it. So let's go through our checklist and do the first service on this GSX-8R. All right, boys, the first step is cleaning and lubing the chain. It's as simple as it sounds. You get your favorite chain cleaner and lube. You simply use a grunge brush or a towel, clean it, make sure it's nice and good. Let's do it. Now we're measuring for the chain slack on this machine. Owner's manual states it should be between 0.8 to 1.2 inches from the top of the chain travel to the bottom. And if we measure it right here, we see that if we start here at the top, about 1.5 inches here on the reader, down to here is a lot more. So we are a little loose. So we're gonna go ahead and tighten this chain up just a bit. Right, so to tighten the chain, the first thing you do is you loosen the rear axle bolt. Not much, you just need it to be about almost hand loose. Because what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna push the adjusters out, so you do need the axle to have some movement. We're then gonna crack the locking nut here on the back of the adjuster. Move it like that, which gives us the ability to move this bolt further down, which will tighten the chain. So we need to move this out a little bit. And when you do that, you'll actually see the chain slightly move. And you just need to do a minor adjustment here. You'll see we're not even gonna move this adjuster. We're just getting the chain to be in spec. Now I'm doing this pretty much on feel because I know what a motorcycle chain tightness should be. And honestly, that feels pretty darn good to me. I'm about to measure it here just to make sure I've got it double checked. But that's really the procedure. It's very simple. You crack the nut on the other side and just adjust here. And because you're not making massive adjustments to these indicators, you don't really need to worry about the other side. It's all good. We're now checking for the chain slack after we've adjusted. The height on here, check it on there. So the top of the roller goes a little under 1 inch. So we are nice and in spec for this chain slack. Remember to tighten the rear axle nut again. Otherwise, this is gonna be loose when you go down the road, and that's gonna be bad time. So this is about 82 foot-pounds if memory serves me correctly. I need to get this down here. Perfect. All right, the next inspection item is steering. As I mentioned, you're just gonna wanna make sure that you have full lock to lock. One of the easiest ways to do that is to get the bike up on a rear stand and then carefully just go left and then all the way right If you don't feel anything tugging or anything strange, you should be good to go. You can visually inspect the cables as well. Again, from the factory, these are probably gonna be just fine. Check the routing for the clutch cable, the clutch switch, the brake lines, the electronics, the starter relay, the wires for that, all that good stuff. Just make sure that you can go all the way right, all the way left, nothing's impinged. And if you want, you can even turn the bike on like this, go left, go right, make sure nothing weird's happening, and just go from there. And then that's a pretty easy one to check. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, the next item we're checking is very important, and that is the brakes. So we're checking for a couple of different things. The first is the feel at the lever. We want to make sure we have nice progressive pressure. We can go ahead and grab the brakes. Nothing's weird is happening. We're also checking at the top here to make sure we have fluid in the reservoir. You guys see that right here for the sight glass. This is a classic square style. So if you really wanted to, you can pop this off and make sure the fluid's up. I see it right here. I see a bubble at the top right here. And that means that we have air flowing all the way to the top. And we also have no air in the lines. I have nice feel at the levers right here, and there's plenty of fluid in here. I'm not seeing any leaks in the lines right here. What we're gonna do is check on this side. Over on the banjo bolt, there's no leaks. We also inspect the brake pads themselves. You guys can see with this radial mounted caliper, you can actually inspect the pads, and we have plenty of life left here on the right-hand side because it's a brand new motorcycle. If you couldn't see this little gap right here, and it was actually all the way down to this darker portion right here, that's when your pads are smoked and you need a new pad. But again, brand new motorcycle, we're just checking for the basics here. We're gonna check the banjo bolts over here, make sure there's no leaks, there are none, and you just keep going from there. The last thing we're gonna check is the torque on the brake caliper bolts. This is a super important one. You don't want your brake calipers to literally fall off of the mounting hardware on the fork. So 30 foot-pounds is plenty on these. We're gonna go ahead and double check those, and then we're gonna move on to the next item because these brakes are looking good on the front. You'll obviously wanna check the rear brake as well. Check for the fluid. Make sure you got all the fluid in there, nothing's leaking out. Nothing's leaking from the banjo bolt there. We have plenty of pressure at this lever. The rear caliper's looking good. There's no leaks right there. And I can see that the pad has plenty of life because it's brand spanking new. So, brake system is looking good. Next up, of course, is the oil change, the most important part of any first service. So, we picked up some oil. This Suzuki's gonna take 3.7 quarts. We're gonna make sure we notate that on the bottle while we disperse it. We have a brand new OEM filter and crush washer. We're gonna reutilize the drain bolt, obviously, not the old crush washer, and go from there. We also have a nice little oil wrench that I have lying around here in my shop. So we're gonna perform the oil change and then report back. So we successfully swapped the oil on the GSX-8R, pretty simple procedure. We're now going to start the motorcycle up for 3 minutes to let it idle, let the oil circulate. Then we're gonna turn it off for 3 minutes and measure it on the rear stand like this on level ground to make sure that the oil is in the right spots. So let's do that. All right, folks, 3,500 milliliters into the GSX-8R. That's 3.7 quarts per the owner's manual. That's with the filter change. I'm gonna start her up for 3 minutes. After our little warm-up test, we are right within spec for the engine oil. Nice. One last thing I like to do as part of my first service is just check the tire PSI. So in the front, we are at 30.2. So we're gonna add a little bit of air onto there to get it up to 34. And at the rear, we're at 32.4. So we're gonna add a little bit of air to get up to 36, and then we are done. One thing I like to do as well is to take off the service things that I've done as part of the maintenance schedule. So as I went through and did all these things today, I just ticked them off and made sure that everything's good to go. All right, guys, hope you learned something today about the first service and breaking in your motorcycle. It is not nearly as scary as it seems. So to recap, we checked and inspected the chain on this machine. We made sure the braking components were all good. The pads, no fluid leaks, proper fluid levels, no sponginess at the lever, front and rear. We also went ahead and made sure we had the proper tire PSI. That's something you should be doing at all times on your motorcycle. We went ahead and changed the oil, quick little filter swap on there, checked the oil levels at the very end, following the owner's manual procedure, and made sure that everything is in tip-top shape for this motorcycle for its future winner on YummyNoob.co. Make sure you sign up on YummyNoob.co, become a member, get access to win this motorcycle and all of our future new giveaway bikes as well. This thing is ready to go off to a beautiful home. I'm gonna ride it around a little bit more and keep enjoying it, and then someone is gonna get it in their driveway. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later. I'm like a bird, I wanna fly away. I don't know where my soul is. I don't know where my home is. Da 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 da. I'm like a bird, I wanna fly away. I don't know where my soul is. Oh, hey. You're still here. Man, this is awkward. You should, fuck. You should keep watching Yummy Noob.